Hello again everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're not aware, this is the secondary channel to my main channel, Kent Survival. I review the gear here that I use over there, and today's video is about these wood burning stoves. Quite a simple thing, usually a metal box that you have a fire in so you don't leave a scar or set fire to the woods, etc. Many types of these available, varying kind of uses, multi-fuel, things like that, and other ways of cooking on them as well. So I thought I'd go through a few of the ones I've got, not all of them, but most of them I think, the most relevant at least. Now you're going to have seen me use most of these before, probably not the Firebox, that's quite new to me, but yeah, let's start going through them one by one. So first up here we have the Firebox stove. Dimensions out of the way, it's 5 by 5 inches, height of 7.5. That's 12.7 centimeters by 19. 33 ounces, 944 grams for the steel one, which is what I have here. But I also do a titanium one, which is 17.5 ounces, which is 496 grams. So it's the ideal sort of size, really. You have these fire sticks, I believe they call them, which you can just use on top for using as a pot rest, like so, or you have gaps where you can put them through, and that allows you to put things like a trangia burner in there as well. Now it's weird that I should start off with something I've not really used as yet, but the reason behind that is they have a kit for using this for baking. So the baking kit setup looks a little like this, and you have a loaf pan and a bigger can. Get a thermometer gauge, tweezers and the pot lifter, and the thermometer gauge goes in the lid. Now the billy cans they do will hold in place the lid with the metal clips, and they have this little wire piece for holding coals on top and getting that heat all the way around. So I've not used this system yet, but I'm looking forward to, and that's the reason I got the Firebox. Another thing that makes these Fireboxes so good is that they are folding. Sorry, that's the ash pan, and they just concertina up like so, nice and simple. Now these are the Bushbox folding stoves. We've got the XL here and the XF here, so you can see the size difference. The Firebox is about the size of the XL, but I tend to use the XF mostly. Now like the Firebox, these just concertina up that simply, that easily. They've also got the fire grate and the ash pan. They're both hinged in there. You have your pot rests, which you can configure however you need to. You can also thread those through, so you can use it with something like a trangia as well. So it's got all them similar attributes. They don't have that same baking system, which is why I bought the Firebox, to give that a go in a video. But I've used this XF most of the time, to be honest. Out of all of my stoves, I've used that the most. These are both the titanium versions. So the XF titanium weight is 270 grams or 9.5 ounces. The normal weight of the steel one is 470 grams or 16.5 ounces. The XL titanium is 490 grams or 17.2 ounces. Steel one is 800 grams or 28.2 ounces. So like I said, this is very similar to the Firebox, 17 centimeters by 21, and this one is 10 by 10 by 14 centimeters. Like the Firebox, they have a fabric case, but you can also get things like this, which I forget the exact name of, but it allows you to slot your stove inside. You can use it to keep the stove up off the ground, things like that. You also have the grates or grills, whatever you'd like to call them, and I also have the nice leather case as well, which has loops on the back. So that's the Bushboxes, another folding stove, great stuff. Obviously The first one and this are a bit more premium, so they do cost more, but in my opinion they are worth it if you use them a lot, and the titanium is worth it if you're backpacking a lot. So this stove I covered quite recently actually. It's a folding stove which is on a budget basically. Now you can look at that review, I'll link all the reviews below to all of these products, like the last one, the Bushbox. But yeah, so this is a bit rickety, but it is folding. It's steel, comes with your grate, your ash pan and your grill for the top as well. They help hold it in position a bit better, but not ideal. They also come with kind of pins so you can put them through and use a transit burner. Basically does pretty much what a Bushbox will do, or a Firebox, just not as well, not as nicely built. These are available from many manufacturers ranging in price. So these are 15 by 15 by 21 centimeters. That's 5.9 inches by 8.3, which is very similar to the Bushbox XL and the Firebox. The weight is 970 grams, 34 ounces, so not light, but then that's because it is steel. So yeah, if you want to know more about this, it does have a few flaws. It's not going to perform as well as a premium product, but it will get you a nice folding stove on a budget. Now here we have a wood gasifier stove, which you may have heard of. It comes in 3 parts, the pot rest, the main chamber, and then this kind of stand and air intake. You can see there's a moving part in here for collapsing. And the thing with these is they have this double wall. Now the theory behind that, well, which is in practice as well, is that a lot of fuel gets wasted in smoke. The holes form jets inside there, and they help to burn off that smoke and gases coming from the woods that would just normally just fly off into the air. Now these things are extremely efficient. They will get you a boil very quickly and efficiently. They eat fuel. So unless you're using them to just boil water, maybe boil in the bag, meals, that sort of thing, I don't tend to use them. They're hard to cook on. You would have to remove your pan constantly for feeding it, and you have to feed them a lot because they just get through that fuel so quickly. Hot burners, efficient burners, great for getting a boil on, not amazing for cooking. Now this one I think is a licksada, but again it's one of these things that just gets branded differently. I think it's 970 grams, 34 ounces. You can get lots of different wood gasifiers, even quite big ones. They make them as fire pits. I don't really see the point in that because you're just eating through fuel. But yeah, if you want to boil on, these things are great. A few of you guys might remember this one. I reviewed it a short while ago. It looked an interesting stove, obviously not for putting over a backpack because it doesn't collapse down at all, but it looked like a good camp stove, base camp stove sort of thing. I was extremely disappointed. When you put a pan on top, I found that these holes here, these jets, whatever you'd like to call them, they just don't allow that airflow enough. It just gets very, very smoky. You've got a feed hole in the front there, and you've got an ash pan there which can let more air in as well. I wasn't a fan. It's 1.5 kilos, 55 ounces, 24.5 centimeters high. I've seen people that like them on YouTube, but I couldn't get on with it. I think it needs either bigger holes or a bigger pot rest on top. You could mod it yourself if you wanted to, but at the price I'd just skip it and get a Bushbox or something. Okay, this is one that a lot of people haven't seen before. It's the Pico stove. They're a Swiss make. This, the smaller version, is now my go-to stove. It's so thin and light and easy. If I just push the ash pan down here, you can see how thin that is. Now I did a review of these recently as well. There's the pot rest there. And there's also a bigger size, which is this, and works in the exact same way. So there's the two sizes. These things are so thin and light. They're still steel, but because they're just so thin, they're just so light. So yes, they're the two Pico stoves. I've done a video quite recently on these. Like I said, the small one is my go-to. The bigger one, if maybe I'm down here somewhere I can drive in or whatever. Not that it actually weighs much. This actually lives in the back of my backpack now because it's so thin and light. I just completely forget about it. It's there if I ever do need it. Now for some reason I haven't got the measurements and weights with me, but I'll put them on the screen. You can see it compared to a XL Bushbox there. But yeah, absolutely loving these little Swiss stoves. I believe they do a fire pit as well, which I might check out at some point. But this is now my go-to. It's replaced my titanium Bushbox XF. So here we have the Firebox Scout stove. This is marketed as an emergency stove. It's just come out of its Kickstarter, which I was a part of. And as you can see, it's just a steel box. It has these lids, which you can use as stands and things as well. Take them out there. The deal package I got come with the fire puck and some other bits and bobs. I put it together with a cup and brew set. You've got the pegs for using it with a trangia. You've got your pot rests which go on top. You've got a grate there for using on the pegs for using solid fuel. It's just a great emergency stove. As you can see, I've loaded it up with brew kit and stove and fuel and things, and I just wanted this to keep in my truck. Obviously I'm in locations like this all over the place all the time, and just to have a stove and brew kit like this that's this versatile as well there all the time, knowing I can depend on it, whether I use the stove burner that's in the cup there or if I just have to find twigs to use, it'll do it all. It's a 4.5 inch square, 5 inch high, that's 11.4 centimeters by 12.7, and it's 476 grams total weight. The stove alone I think is 152 grams, so it depends if you want to be using these or not as well. Like I said, I'm just using it inside my truck, so I don't really have to worry about the weight, and yeah, it's just an all-in-one kit for me. So we have here the Winnerwell backpacker. This is the actual Winnerwell backpacker itself. The table is sold separate. I believe it's steel or titanium. This one is the titanium model, and it does fold concertinas kind of like the Bushbox, and that'll sit inside that when the table collapses as well. The titanium on these is a little bit thinner than on most of the other stoves. The weight of these comes in at 320 grams or 540 for the steel model. It's got a width of 188 centimeters, depth of 122 and a height of 151. So just to bring back that XL Bushbox, you can get, it's like a similar size on its side. It's got a built-in grate if you want to do meat directly on it, and you have a tray which affixes to the front, so you can just leave your longer logs in there or longer sticks in there and have something to rest on. It's a good little stove. It's got a little bit of warpage because it is a thinner titanium, but it's been used a fair amount and it is still going. These are quite costly, especially if you want the table as well, but of course if you really want something like the table, it will fit other stoves if you're in a particularly dry area or somewhere you don't want to be leaving any scars for sure. So yeah, that's the Winnerwell backpacker stove. A friend of mine's been using it recently. He's very happy with it, the lightness of it for sure. A little bit of warpage, but it gets the job done. A little bit more costly this one. I'll put it all on the screen if I can. But yeah, that's the backpacker. So this is the one Tigris Evilized stove, or a Tocuboid I think. They did do a smaller stove, but they've come out with this one, which is more similar in size to an XL Bushbox. As you can see, this one is not hinged, it does slot together, so it's a bit fiddly and it will leave you with blackened hands every time you do it. The advantage of that is it's a lot cheaper because you're not paying for all that engineering that goes into it. Comes with pot rest, quite simple, and on the bottom you've got an ash pan and a grate as well. This is the steel version. I think they do a titanium one actually. Yes, I've written it down. Steel one is 582 grams and the titanium one is 430. So that's 20 ounces and 15 ounces. It's 12 centimeters squared by 15 high. Perfectly good stove, perfectly good starter stove. And as you can see there, that's how it slots together. Quite handy to be able to do all three and then just put on your front panel there. So yeah, that's the one Tigris. And so we come to my first ever wood burning stove. This is a Licksada. These come in two sizes. This is the smaller one. My friend Mark has the bigger one. You may have seen it in some of the videos we've done together. Like the one Tigris, they just slot together, except on this one for some reason you can't just slot down the front panel. It's down on one side, up on the other, so it's a little more fiddly and you get blackened hands. You've only got a fire grate, you've not got an ash pan, so if you're worried about, you know, coals going through, embers burning the ground, there's that to worry about. Very simple pot rest. I think on this one it goes corner to corner. Not used this in a long time, to be honest. Since I got my Bushbox, with the amount I use these stoves, it's just so much more worth it for having a folding stove, just so much easier with all the filming and everything as well. But yeah, this was a starter stove. This one I think is too small. It's hard to get it to sort of hold embers and coals in there and keep it going. The bigger version would be fine. It's more similar in size to that one Tigris. So you can see that in comparison to the Bushbox XL. Just keep doing this because it's to hand. But yeah, these weigh 380 grams, 13 ounces. But yeah, I'd recommend the bigger one if you're going for one. I think they do them in titanium now as well. So it's a, you know, a lightweight option if you don't mind slotting it together. But I would, like I said, go for the bigger one. Just holds that heat a bit better. Hope you've enjoyed a quick little look at all of my stoves. Now obviously I've only gone over the basics of all of these. My more in-depth videos will show you more. I'll link them all below, and I'll link a couple on the end screen that are my favourites. But as you can see, that's them all burning away, which was easier than I thought with firelighters. But yeah, just to give you a little bit of an idea. But a lot of you have seen me cook on these and use these quite a lot. Yeah, so they've all had use. I do know the kind of ins and outs of most of them. Obviously the Firebox is new to me and we'll be trying that out soon. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Check out those links and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.